Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Driving Perilously. This is the special Christmas series, the show in which we turn on the radio and talk about what it is that we find, but at Christmas, I usually find things I'm already familiar with. This is Pachelbel Canon, Pachelbel, Pachelbel Canon. Adapted for Christmas. This version is by Michael W. Smith with a children's choir. He is a keyboardist. I would guess piano music major who started touring with Amy Grant just when contemporary Christian music started being extremely profitable and has now branched off into solo phase, including at least one big secular hit, Place in This World. But I don't know, he's probably made some more inroads than that in secular music and done very well in contemporary Christian music. The famous duet, is it a duet? Friends Are Friends Forever. That's a big, wonderful song. And he writes a lot of songs. Probably wrote those too, I don't know. But Pachelbel was one of the famous Pachelbel Canon, C-A-N-O-N, canon. It's a musical form. It means you play something, then somebody else plays the same thing, and then somebody else plays the same thing around. Canon is, Pachelbel Canon is one of the all-time greatest light classical pieces, popular for weddings, and here it's adapted for Christmas. Jesu Joy Man's Desiring is similar. It's been adapted for Christmas. It's just classical music that is just immediately accessible. Everybody likes it. So every year, somebody sings the 12 Days of Christmas. And there's a million versions. I was working at a place of employment who was trying to do something fun to build the team because, I was about to curse. The people who run it knew that it was an evil place to work, so they tried to pretend like it wasn't, and they tried to have a Christmas party. They did have a Christmas party and tried to pretend like they liked us. So one of the questions in the trivia game was, it's 5 golden rings, 4 French hens, 3 turtle doves, whatever. But what's number 8? And I said, well, it depends. Because there's so many versions. There's the derivative ones that are trying to be funny, like the 12 gifts for dad with the lavender tie, or the 12 gifts for the golfer in your life, or the 12 funny things, whatever. But the original song, which nobody knows who wrote it, obviously written in the language of English, but who knows who wrote it. There's just so many variations. So yeah, it's usually 8 maids of milking, but sometimes the pipers are 8 or 10 or 11 or whatever. So every year we get to hear 12 Days of Christmas, and I think it's like eggnog. Once a year is enough. Pretty vocalist, not sure what song that is. have a country-inspired, country-style Christmas carol. I haven't heard many of those this year. To me, that is the cutoff point. When a song has a couple country versions, it's now a standard. And very few songs go the other way. You start out country and then have other non-country versions. But if there are some country versions and some non-country versions, it's a standard to me. And of course, this is a Christmas carol sung by a very capable vocalist. That's Josh Groban. We Three Kings of Orient are. There's a very good YouTube video. There's probably 100 because the subject is so universally interesting to people who are interested in trivia. But We Three Kings of Orient are, first of all, why do they think there's three of them? Second of all, why do they think they're kings? Third of all, why are they from the Orient? So there's the story, which is found in one place in the Gospels. So unlike a lot of the Gospel stories, it can't be fleshed out with different versions to try to get a more complete picture. The Gospel writers are writing very specific things to make specific points. They're not telling you everything that happened. They're not biographies. First of all, there weren't any biographies, but they're not trying to be biographies. They're trying to make points, and there's 4 Gospel writers, and they're each making similar but different points. And the story of the Magi coming from the east was turned into 3 kings from the Orient. But every aspect of the nativity story is an interpolation, or an accumulation of things that are not in the original text. And it's not like there are other texts to compare it to. There's one narrative, no reference anywhere else, except for people who read that and commented upon it and built upon it and constructed these nativity scenes and manger sets. I think that's the same thing. Filled with these traditions and art and paintings. Painting, sculpture, and of course sculpture includes its more common nativity sets. And there's all of these assumptions that are just, worldwide, that don't come from the wise men narrative or the shepherd narrative, which are completely separate, and there's only one account of each. So, if you're interested in that kind of thing, I find it fascinating because you've got the scriptures, which not many people were aware of when they were written, which exploded and became one of the bases of civilizations, several civilizations. And then you've got the pop cultural interpretations of those medieval traditions, and you put it all together and you've got Christmas. Very interesting phenomenon. There's nothing like it. Even though there are other narratives, even though there are other holidays, there's just nothing like it. It's so far above everything else in our world.
Humility has been called the prince of virtues, like the crown jewel of the Christian life. But how exactly do you...
I'm meteorologist Lauren.
I'm meteorologist. I talk like
Skies
this.
are mostly sunny as we move toward Monday. It's a really comfortable day. Low humidity
It is
and
a
high pressure
comfortable day.
winds will keep our skies nice and dry.
She's not kidding about
Temperature
that.
near 80 through the afternoon.
Demands the Free Family Radio app.
All Christmas music now through the last ho ho ho.
The Last Ho. That's a good title for something. Amy Grant's Sleigh Ride from a Christmas album, I think in 1984. She doesn't sound like a member of the Illuminati, does she? Alright, so that is this episode of Driving Perilously, the show in which we turn on the radio and talk about what it is that we find. Oftentimes I throw in an autobiographical note so that if I ever watch this 10 years from now, or 2 years from now, 50 years from now, I'll know what was going on at the time. So I will throw in 2 details. Yesterday we had a cast party, and for the closing day of Calendar Girls, which is a chance to have a show that's not filled with 20-year-olds. And it's great, you know, shows are great. Great group of people. Met some people, worked with some people I already worked with, you know, great. So we had the cast party, and I was too scared to sing at karaoke, even though I had agreed to sing Baby It's Cold Outside. But I wouldn't do it. It's so terrible. And someone said, someone who generally has thoughtful opinions, whether I agree with them or not, said, well, that's interesting, Carl, because you're one of the few singers that's here. And everybody's in plays, so they would, compared to the general populace, they were singers. But that's true. I didn't want to do a bad job. I wanted to sing good, and I wasn't prepared. And then somebody else who never met me before, a spouse of somebody in the play, never met him, said, oh, well, tell me what you do. And, you know, he saying his job. He said, tell me what you do. You're obviously a comedian. Well, that's cool. I never thought of myself as a comedian before. Somebody who's in plays who tries to be funny, yes. But nobody's ever said, oh, you're a comedian. So that was nice. Those 2 successful things, validating my choices to be in shows and so forth. So I was in 3 things. I had 3 things in the pipeline. 2 of them are over. And now I'm in 3 things. 3 things? I have a reading today, just a one-time reading of a script. Then I have Guys and Dolls in January, Christmas Eve. So yeah, I'm in 3 things. After today, I'll be in 2 things. Alright, so that's it for this episode of Driving Perilously, the show in which we turn on the radio and talk about what it is that we find. Hope you're finding a happy holiday season.